Good morning, and thank you so much for joining me for Daily Spark with Dr. Angela. I am your host, Dr. Angela Butts-Chester. You know what I like to do on my show. I want to enlighten you. I want to inspire you. I want to empower you to become your best self. Now, the scripture reminds us that the tongue is a small thing that makes grand speeches, but a tiny spark can set a great forest on fire. And today we want to get you fired up about the book, The Yearning Heart. Its author is Hilary Sinclair. Now, this is a book of poetry that reflects on an ongoing awareness journey. And are our lives just that? A journey in which we are hoping to become inspired, enlightened, empowered, aware to become our best selves. Now, I love it. Let me tell you a little bit more about Hilary Sinclair. Like so many people today, she is interested in finding the balance of body, mind, and spirit, and is still waiting, she says, on part of her integration. Well, she exposes the intense spiritual pressure in a fundamentalist Christian fellowship contributed to by several mental breakdowns in the 80s, which opened the gates to a more tranquil and contemplative life. Discovering Ken Wilber's integral worldview, that is, it led her to an expanded consciousness, which gave her the courage to publish this small volume of poems. Now, Hilary is a qualified spiritual director and graduate teacher who has long since retired, she mentions, but she originally worked in the field of psychodynamic and group psychotherapy and graduated from the University of Cambridge in the UK. She has always loved poetry and includes works from Catherine Rain, Emily Bronte, and John Keats. Now, her mystic consciousness was first triggered as a teenager when she was reading Simone Weil. So you know what I'm about to say, you guys? Go on, get your coffee, get your tea, get comfy, get cozy, because we are about to get started. Good morning, Hilary. Thank you so much for joining me on Daily Spark with Dr. Angela today.
Thank you. Thank you. It's good to be here. Thank you.
Now, Hilary, I love that you are someone who is interested in making sure that we live life from a holistic point of view, that we are aware of our mind, body, and spirit connection. You mentioned it kind of in your bio there, but at what point in your life did you realize that this was not optional, but that it was mandatory for us to be our best selves?
Well, it's quite difficult, really. I think strangely enough, I do owe quite a lot of this realization to Ken Wilber's book on the integral vision, because that was the book that began my sort of awareness of that. But that came a long time after my prayer and my Christian connections. So I've got a very checkered history, the way it all pans out.
Now, at what point did you decide that becoming an author was something that you needed to do, or was it just the next appropriate step, did you feel, in your life?
Well, it happened last year. Yes, probably about a year ago. I knew I had all these poems already, you see. I mean, I had the poems. I didn't write them last year. I wrote them a long time ago. And I thought, oh, well, it would be nice to let other people see these poems, because I think, I just thought they might appeal to some people, that's all.
Was there anything in particular that inspired you to publish these poems?
Well, that's difficult. I don't know if I can even answer that question. I just became aware that they were good poems. I looked at them again. They were good. They spoke to me, and I thought they speak to me. They would speak to other people as well. That's what I thought.
How would you describe your book?
how I describe it? Well, it's a compilation of a lot of different poems, really. They all have some kind of a focus in nature or a spiritual focus. Some of them are quite mystical. Yeah, it does go back, you see, to basically it goes back in my life to the time when I had my mental breakdown, which you mentioned earlier, and as a result of that, all my prayer life all changed completely, and it changed. This was in the 80s, a long time ago, and I was in a charismatic church that we were, very focused on Jesus. Jesus is so important to me, and he still is, but he's so important to me then. And what happened was, I had this inner turmoil that I had. A great fragmentation happened when I was ill, and looking back on it, I realized that in actual fact it was what nowadays people are recognizing this kind of thing as being a spiritual emergency. It was very much a spiritual emergency that I had then, because I wasn't able to assimilate and process this changing awareness. So what happened was, when I got over that, through that, which took a long time, when I got through that, the intense episode of inner turmoil resolved itself into a different kind of spiritual understanding and led to a change in my prayer life. And then my contemplative prayer began, which was, quite different. Well, should I say the same but different? The same but different. And yes, shall I go on or not?
If you want to share more.
Yes, I'll share more of that because it's so important. It was a pivotal point for me, and it was quite pivotal, really. And of course, I wanted to know what had caused me to have this breakdown. I really wanted to find out what had caused it. I couldn't, and I discovered the works of St. John of the Cross at this time, and it was his work on the dark night of the soul which comforted me so much, and it explained to me what was otherwise totally incomprehensible. And I'll say this because it's true, and at that time when I was recovering and questioning and wondering what was going on, I used to carry the works of St. John of the Cross around in a plastic bag, the way that I'd previously been carrying the Bible around. You know how people carry the Bible around. Well, now I was carrying the works of St. John of the Cross, which explained so much to me, and it was much more focused and internal, and there were lots of different things happened. I can't say that, I went through a very dry period after that, a very dry spiritual period, and then the poems came. So that's how it is.
When you were writing your book, did you have a particular group of people? Did you have a particular reader in mind? Who do you think your book will appeal to the most?
I think people who are on some kind of a spiritual journey, people who want to know who are spiritual, who are either Christians or people who love nature. There's some nature poems in there, so I think it will appeal to quite a range of different people.
Now, when you were writing, did you did you have a particular age group? So many times I have people on that are children's book authors. Some very specifically target young adults. Others say adults, like a more mature adult. Did you have a particular age range, or did you just write in general for anyone who's ready to read your work?
Yeah. No, I had no age range in mind. I think anyone, yeah. Anyone who's ready. Mm-hmm.
Now, for so many people, and this becomes a question that folks will say, well, Dr. Angela, you have people on all the time that say that their book is awesome, it's wonderful, and it's this or that, 2 thumbs up. So my question to you is for the person who says, why is your book relevant today? What makes your book special? What would your answer be?
Oh, I think it is relevant. That's part of the reason why I wanted to publish the poems, because there's a growing awareness, there's a growing consciousness rising in people, and they're very much interested in spiritual things now, much more than, I think it's increasing a lot, really. It's increasing. People are hungry to know spiritual things.
Do you think that they want to know more about spiritual things because of everything that's going on in the world? Like they feel that they need to know because something must be happening in the world? Or do you think that people just have a natural inclination to simply be their best? Or perhaps a little bit of both?
Well, a bit of both. I think originally, like a year ago, I think it's a natural seeking, people naturally seeking. But now things are changing, and there's more pressure on people, even now, as you said. So there's more pressure on people to look inside and find out what they really believe in.
Now we have about a minute left in the show, and I wanted to ask about the title of your book, The Yearning Heart. So many times an author will get their title first, and then they write around the title. Others perhaps are simply start writing, and the title comes out of those writings. How did you come about your title, and why were those words important?
That is so interesting, because I thought I have to call something, and I just reflected, really. I mean, it came to me really spontaneously. I didn't have to search. I just relaxed, I suppose, and I thought about it, and this title was the first thing that came to me, and I thought, well, that's it. That's what I'll do.
I love it. I love how sometimes we are given what we need to be given, and it is so simple and clear, and it tends to be the right thing at the right time, and we just know. I love it. Well, Hilary Sinclair, it is time for us to go to break. Before we do, can you please remind everyone of the title of your book, and where can we pick up a copy?
It's called The Yearning Heart, Poems of Contemplation and Stillness. You can get it under my name on Amazon, and I have a website which is hilarysinclair.com, and my email address is sinclair.hk@gmail.com, and I have a WordPress, Hilary's Hotline, it's called, Hilary's Hotline on WordPress.
Alrighty, listeners, now you know where you can pick up a copy of the book. We'll be back right after this.
Discovery, not just a sec.
What would it look like if we listened more? Could the right voice, the right set of words, bring us all just a little closer, get us to open up, even push us further? It could, if we took the time to listen. The most inspiring minds, the most compelling stories. Download Audible and listen for a change.
And we are back. Thank you so much for joining me for Daily Spark with Dr. Angela. I am your host, Dr. Angela Butchester. My guest today is Hilary Sinclair, and we're talking about her book, The Yearning Heart. Now, I love it because it is a book of poetry, and there's something special to me about poetry because it expresses yourself. You're able to express yourself in a certain way, and it really draws us into what the author was thinking. Now, you mentioned in your bio, and you kind of touched on it a little bit earlier, and that is you experienced what many call a breakdown. I know we don't have time to go into, everything that happened, and we're not trying to have a therapy session, live on air or anything, but can you tell us about what happened with the breakdown, and how have you learned to be your best since recovering?
Oh, there's no problem now. Oh, no, there's no problem at all now. This was a long time ago this happened. There was a great deal of fragmentation going on and split thinking, and I think it was because I couldn't assimilate and process my changing awareness that was emerging, but I couldn't assimilate it then. It had to happen later. So that's why it was a spiritual emergency, because I didn't know then that's what it was. It was a mental breakdown. So, and it was very, everything that happened during the breakdown that led to it was of a spiritual nature. So it's difficult to explain, but it came on. I started to be ill when I was at a large Bible convention, and then lots of other things happened, and the whole thing turned into a nightmare. But weirdly, it was a spiritual nightmare. So weirdly, yes, had all sorts of imagery occurred.
Thank you for sharing about your breakdown. But now that we know that you are well and you have recovered, how do you maintain your wellness? Is there anything that you do that keeps you in this new state of balance?
Yes, well, it's just that my spiritual life, as I explained earlier, is totally transformed. And my prayer life transformed, and now, yes, I do a lot of meditation, and I follow spiritual things on YouTube, which are very, very helpful, and my consciousness has expanded a lot, and I have a new consciousness, really, and that is what keeps me sane and keeps me positive, and keeps me optimistic even in the middle of the awful things that are happening now. So, yes, so really it's my spiritual life which is sustaining me now.
I love that. Now, you talk about the spiritual benefits. What would you say are some of the spiritual benefits? How do you know that I don't want to say how do you know your prayers are working, because I think everyone understands when their prayers are working. But what do you do, or how do you understand the spiritual benefits of your life?
I'm much more peaceful, much more tranquil. Anytime I want to just be there, I can be there, and I'm much more peaceful. Things don't worry me. I'm much more detached. Things don't worry me, yeah, it's really good. That's what I can say, really. But it's more. No, it's difficult to explain, but I'm in a completely different way of life, in a completely different zone now, and my contemplation and my connection to the source of all life is what is sustaining me.
I love that. Having that connection to God really is important. Now, how did your poems originate? Did you find that that your poetry would come to you like in a full verse? Would it come to you a line here or there? How did you determine what to include for your poetry?
Oh, yes. Well, one of the poets that's really inspired me is John Keats. And John Keats wrote a line. He famously wrote, "If poetry comes not as naturally as leaves on the tree, it had better not come at all." And I was taught that by my English teacher 50 years ago. But that's what I remember sitting, waiting for a poem to arrive and never forcing it. I never thought I never forced it. And the lines just came to me in the moments of tranquility. So I think that's why I've written so few. Yeah.
Now, what advice would you give to someone who is thinking about, be it that they are going to write a book of poetry, or they feel that they may be a budding poet themselves? What advice would you give to them?
Oh, difficult one. I think I'd say don't try too hard. Find your inspiration. Look within yourself and see what's inspiring you, and then see what comes up.
See what comes up. Go ahead and don't stifle. I love that. I love that. Now, for someone who says, I think I understand what you're talking about, but I'm going through a time where, with everything that's going on in the world, I just feel so alone. Many of us have been on quarantine or stay-at-home orders, however you want to say that. In fact, the whole world has, and people are feeling alone. Do you have any words of encouragement from that spiritual balance, from that wellness place? Do you have any words of encouragement for them today?
Well, I think it's so important now to have a meditation practice. I mean, if you have if you're a Christian, of course you have your prayer life, and if you're not a Christian, you must meditate. Meditation and contemplation is going inside yourself, sitting very still, waiting for peace. This is a way forward. You have to contact your source within yourself, which will give you the strength, because there's no other way. You won't find the strength outside. You have to find the strength inside yourself. And this is a hard call for people to recognize now with everything that's going on. So we have to think about, we just have to press forward, each of ourselves, and realize that inside we can affect things for the better if we are positive, if we are positive in the right kind of way, with a core of acceptance within ourselves. Things will go better for us.
And I have found that in all that has gone on in the world, that it seems to have slowed us down a bit. It's made us realize the importance of the people that are around us. Kind of that self-reflection of and so I hope that there is a a bit of goodness that can come out of all of this. My heart aches for anyone who has lost a loved one due to the virus. I know that my family has lost some in-laws to the illness, but I think in the very big scheme of things, it has made us realize how important we are to each other and how we are interconnected. I love that. Do you think that in the world, getting back to a sense of new normal, as many of us are calling it, do you think that who we are spiritually will become a new sense of awareness as we build this new normal?
I definitely think that. I think this is happening. It's happening to many, many, many people, and sometimes, if it's completely new to them, they won't really understand what's happening, but they will. And, they will. They stay with it. They will find out what's happening, and there's a growing awareness. And that's what's going to happen. And that is what's going to change individuals. It's going to change our society in ways we don't know, but everything is going to change. The whole structures of society are probably going to change. Things are going to change that we can't possibly know about now, but let us have faith that things will get better. And, we will get through this in a really good way. Thank you.
I love it. Well, Hilary Sinclair, thank you so much for spending time with us today here on Daily Spark with Dr. Angela. I have enjoyed our talk today. Can you remind everyone for the last time, what is the title of your book and where can we get a copy?
It's called The Yearning Heart. You can find it on Amazon. Yes. And you can see my website, which is HilaryKSinclair.com.
Alrighty, listeners, now you know where you can get a copy of the book. As always, everyone, may the Lord continue to shine His face upon you. May you receive His grace and His mercy in all that you do. Until next time, everyone, remember that you are blessed in the Lord. Have a great day, everyone. Bye-bye.